To have a guru means to be receptive, to be humble, to ask for guidance. And most of us know something about giving and receiving wise guidance. That is much easier to give advice than it is to receive advice. Like the parent who says, my children know that I'm the one who knows what is right. Why don't they just obey me? Or, I have so many good ideas, good advice for my husband. I know all these ways that he can improve himself. But why does he never ask me? There's the young man who reminisces. And he thinks, now when I was living at home, my father seemed so ignorant. He just tried to give me all this bad advice. And then I moved away to university. 4 years later, I returned, and I was just amazed at how much my dad got so much smarter in that time. And of course, the father didn't get all that much smarter, but the boy transformed himself. And in that time, he got a whole new perspective. He expanded his awareness beyond just his little family, relatives, his little circle of friends, people who thought like he thought. And he began to meet all sorts of different kinds of people. He began to realize through his own experience what thinking, what actions gave him, consistently made him happier. And he thought that maybe he didn't need to reject all of the advice that his father had given him. And this is a process for all of us. A magazine reporter, when he asked Swami Kriyananda, do I need a guru? Swamiji said, no, you don't. Unless you want to find God. If you're among that 0.1% that is seeking liberation, that is seeking moksha, then yes, of course, you certainly do. But most people don't need a guru quite yet. But everybody has the desire to avoid pain and to increase happiness. And in the natural evolution of our soul's journey through many incarnations, we gradually learn what actions can help us to avoid misery, what actions can help us bring more happiness. And we start also to ask advice of those who have gone before, those who seem a little wiser. And at a certain moment comes the realization, maybe it's a result of a tragedy, comes the realization that nothing in this world is lasting, that there is no one who can always be there to protect the pain from coming to me, that there is nothing here that will give me eternal happiness. And once we begin to feel a little bit of inner peace, we realize that with some reminders, we can relive that experience of inner peace. Maybe it's every day in meditation. Maybe it's once every hour. Maybe it's with every breath we take, until we don't need any more reminders. We live in that inner peace. And we're no longer affected. We're no longer held back by the karma in the world. And it can seem such a challenge to get from that place of occasionally, once in a while, feeling peace, to feeling that peace all the time. But the key is for us not to feel discouraged. Once when a disciple said to Yoganandaji, "Sir, I don't think I have very good karma." Master replied, and he said, "Don't say that. You have very, 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 very good karma just to want to know God, to have that desire to be free." We are so close. It's like we're 1 minute before midnight on the clock of our soul's evolution through incarnations. And the seconds are ticking down. And when to get that little distance further, that is when we need help. For to reach that freedom, we need the help of someone who already has that freedom. And by attuning ourselves to a self-realized guru, that is, we draw to ourselves his power, his energy, his grace. And it's that power, that grace, that will pull us over the finish line. And this is the role of the guru. Thank you.
Isn't that nice to think about, that we're so close to the finish line? The very first sentence of Autobiography of a Yogi is, "The characteristic feature of Indian culture is the search for ultimate verities and the concomitant disciple-guru relationship." And for such a great master, in such a great book, to start his book with that line, I think that it's a line that everybody needs to pay attention to. And I think it's also a great good karma for India to have that as a characteristic feature. I don't think he would have started that if he was talking about America. When we are born, we're born into a set of circumstances that our previous karma has dictated. And we're born into a situation where, according to divine law, we can take the next step in our evolution. It might be a karmic tie with somebody in the family, or it might be an economic situation, or it might be a country or an environment that the divine has dictated to us. You can take your next step in evolution here. So we grow up in this particular country, in this particular neighborhood, in a particular house, with a particular set of family members, with a particular body, with habits and tendencies and desires and likes and dislikes. And so here we are, growing up with that, and we think, that's who I am. That's who I am. And I've always known this, and this is what I've known since I was a baby, and these are my people, and this is what I like and don't like. And I've been looking at myself in the mirror every day since I was 3. So this is who I am. But is that really who we are? It's sort of like Yogananda talks about the cage. How the soul is attached to the body, and this whole in a sense, karmic situation is like a cage. And the guru wants to come and open the door. But we say, no, this is my cage. This is my house. This is who I am. I'm quite comfortable with it. Thank you very much. And so we go on just like that for a long time. And just as Keshava said, we may condition our happiness on that situation, that nothing ever changes. My happiness comes from these people being around me, this situation, and if the cook changes and he cooks differently, I'm not happy. If, suddenly I get sick with something, I'm not happy. There's so many ways that we condition our happiness based on what we think we are. And yet, something is bound to happen to affect that happiness. Either we will suffer, somebody in our family will suffer, we will suffer. Maybe we'll get every single one of our desires fulfilled. And if every single one of our desires are fulfilled, then what? Then we might find ourselves bored or thinking, what's next? What is the purpose for all of this? So at some point, our soul comes to the realization that I don't know all the answers and I want something more, or I don't want to suffer as much, or I'm seeking a greater purpose in my life. And when that starts to happen to us, that's when we begin to wake up and say, how can I find my answers? And at first, Yogananda says, God sends us teachers in the form of books. So many of us go through years of reading books. I know I just read so many books over 15 years and thought I was growing so much, but I think my intellect was just going around in circles and circles. And then, when I finally realized that, no, the books weren't giving me what I wanted, then I started going into my subconscious, my dreams, and started seeking the Egyptian mysteries, and maybe went to a psychic and learned about my past lives and all of these things that I thought might help me. But it still wasn't helping me. And then as my understanding grew deeper and I started to yearn more for an inner relationship with God, I found Autobiography of a Yogi. And in that great book, what does Yogananda write about again and again? The disciple finding the guru. How Lahiri Mahashaya finds Babaji's in the Himalayas. How Sri Yukteswar is an ardent disciple of Lahiri Mahashaya. How Yogananda's parents are disciples of Lahiri Mahashaya. And then, of course, just the incredibly moving chapters about Yogananda seeking his guru and finding him in Varanasi in that alleyway. And then years in his master's hermitage. And we hear all about learning from the guru, how life is guided by whims and fancies until a God-realized guru can help us change our karma through his power, through his magnetism. Because that's what the guru knows how to do. They are God-realized, and they know who we really are. Even though we think we are this body, they know who we are. And they take their power and magnetism and know exactly what we need to grow. And through their own uplifted consciousness and guidance, they can help us also understand who we are. Just like the mountain climbing guide, that he doesn't want to climb the mountain for you. He wants to show you how to climb the mountain. That's just what the gurus want to do for us. And, climbing that mountain, the spiritual mountain, is not quite so easy. Swami asked Yoganandaji one time, out of all the saints you've written about in your autobiography, how many had reached liberation? Master said 6. In addition to the masters. Yeah, that was in addition to the masters, the gurus. 6, and Yogananda wrote about quite a few saints in that book. So reaching that finish line is not as easy as we think. And so, as Keshava said, humility. When do we know when we're ready for a guru? When we have the willpower to go on alone. One of Ananda's theme song is Go On Alone. We need the willpower and the creativity and the independence to say, I don't want to just keep going on like I've been going on my whole life, because something has to change. I need deeper purpose, or I'm tired of suffering this much, and I'm going to seek something different. Maybe we pick up Autobiography of a Yogi. Maybe we come to satsangs. Maybe we learn to meditate. Something starts to change. But probably the rest of our family and all of our friends are not doing it. So we usually have to do that by ourselves. And everybody says, what are you doing? Why are you going? What's a Sunday morning? All this. It's just like we have to go on alone. We have to have the willpower to take that step for our own self-transformation. And we have to have the humility to know that we cannot transform ourselves. And we have to have the openness to know that we are able to be taught. We can be shown a better way. And the faith that these divine realities that we know in our hearts and consciousness are real can be ours. And the very, very, very good karma, as Keshava said, to want to know God. And that is when God will send us a self-realized guru. Master said that students are many, but disciples are few. When we really want to know God, He will send us. We don't even have to look. He will send us the guru. When we're ready, He will send the guru to us. And that's also when we give up the thought that I want my life just to be easy. I want my life just to be pleasurable. When we can give that up and say, I want a victorious life, then He will send us the guru. And the guru is eternal. From the past all the way into the eternity, that guru will be with us and guide us. So let's ask for a victorious life. Let's have the humility to know we cannot do it by ourselves, and open ourselves, and God will send us a self-realized guru. God bless you.